just months before, he was working on the Dutch song with the extreme Dutch lyrics. And it's literally, I'm coming back from the grave.
Yeah.
And it literally, like, that happened to him because it was very close. Like, he was very lucky in that sense. And we were talking about, I was on the phone with him constantly. Like, he called me from the hospital the first time it happened. I was in shock. And the problem also then is, like, they have to do all kinds of research scans, and then you don't really know what's going on. Medication. And I went there pretty quickly because I was already gonna go there for shows, the shows that we canceled. And we talked a lot about it, and about, like, also just as friends, because we were friends, very good friends, and, like, you know, what does it mean to die, and what does it mean to be scared of death, and what it meant to him, and this is crazy, and what about legacy? What if things would have ended right here?
Ardek, it's great to see you. From a Belgian in Canada to an undead Dutch person in Costa Rica, although you look extremely alive right now. Pretty sure that I'm talking to the right person here, but how are you doing?
Great, I'm doing great, alive and kicking. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on here, and I've been grown into the exotic part of the world. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. I mean, there's just a good humidity to keep, gothic death people alive somehow and coming back from the dead. Is what the band does on this album or on this EP as well. It's almost here as we're talking. We finally get the new EP. It's been a while since the last album, and that was a bit of a while before what we saw before that. Because before, Carach Angren was like a releasing machine. So how, like, it's been, obviously everybody's had rocky times, but you know, your band as well. Now that you hopefully can take a step back and kind of reflect a little bit, like, how do you look back on these last, like, 10 years really that have been a bit of a whirlwind?
Yeah, it's what you say, like, we were on a flow with new albums and we did a lot of touring. Then at some point, our drummer left. There was COVID, so everything was, like, shut down, and there was the time we were working on Frankenstein, and we were very excited and we wanted to release it, although there was no touring. We did a video clip, like, in the small window that it was possible to record something, but, like, I think back then it sort of, I mean, it did really well, but there was not really a supporting tour in that moment. And then in those years, like 21, 22, there was constantly like, yeah, we're going on tour, we're going to get visas, and then no, it was shut down. The thing that everyone did. So 2022 was actually finally when we were going out, and 23 as well in the US. And we were still, like, in that Frankenstein mode, so it was like as if those 2 years hadn't existed.
Yeah.
And I mean, that all went very well. And then already we're working on some of the songs that you will hear now. And then obviously we were looking at the lineup, like who's going to be drumming with us. Luckily we have Bastiaan on guitars already 10 years. So, and the EP idea was already coming very early on, and we wanted to connect it, or we were connecting it to the story of our first album, Lammendam.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it fitted because we didn't want to do another Lammendam, like, full length, and this story is actually a sort of a spin-off because we found more details and alternative storytelling to this, key legend. So the idea for the EP fitted very well. It was never the idea to just do something quick. That sometimes happens with EPs, that the bands put out a remix.
Yeah.
But with us, it's actually, it feels to me, and I think to Saragor, to like a short album, but it is the same amount of work. It's just a couple of
start and finish.
Artwork, pictures, a video, like everything is the same for us. But I get that some fans might, for example, say, "Oh, it's just an EP," but we worked a lot on it, and And then last year, unfortunately, Saragor got problems with his heart. It was pretty scary, and for months it was uncertain what his health condition was going to be. And we were in the middle of the recording. The drums were already tracked then, and we had planned the vocal sessions for last summer, but we had to cancel tours, we had to cancel shows.
Yeah.
On top of that, we couldn't accept new ones because we didn't know if he was going to be able to do them because it was very uncertain. And then around November, we got the cardiologist told him like, yeah, you're fine, your heart muscle recovered miraculously, and you can go and do whatever you want to do again. So it was like, wow, miracle. And then we immediately stepped into the recording again. But almost a year later, and then we contacted our management booking agency like, yeah, we can accept new offers again, but yeah, suddenly you're 1 year later, and then with all the booking.
Oh yeah, for sure. And an offer today is usually for in a year from now, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, a year and a half, I hear. So that has also changed since the last couple of years. That before we would always like couple of months, like we do a tour here or there. Now it's like, yeah, how about 2027? I'm like, okay, this.
Yeah.
A lot of bands out there and tours, and it's incredible. Yeah.
Now, before we go into this new music and everything around it, like it must have been quite the experience for him as well, going through that whole health journey, if you will, and then being cleared. And I mean, there is obviously some sort of meta irony there with a band that sings often about returning from the dead, to kind of going through that in a very, very real way. Like that must have been for him, but also for you and everybody that's close to him, like a bit of a mind fuck to go through. Like that must have been rough.
Yeah, it was extremely rough, and because like I remember just months before he was working on the Dutch song with the Dutch lyrics, and it's literally I'm coming back from the grave.
Yeah,
and it literally like that happened to him because it was very close. Like he was very lucky in that sense. And we were talking about it. I was on the phone with him constantly. Like he called me from the hospital the first time it happened. I was in shock. And the problem also then is like they have to do all kinds of research scans, and then you don't really know what's going on. Medication. Mm-hmm. And I went there pretty quickly because I was already gonna go there for shows, the shows that we canceled then.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about it, and about like also just as friends, because we were friends, very good friends, and like, what does it mean to die, and what does it mean to be scared of death, and what it meant to him, and this is crazy, and what about legacy? What if things would have ended right here, like
right?
And but in a positive way, like we're 40s both now, and you don't expect those things to hit you in your 40s, but you hear things. I hear some stories here and there from friends, people I know. It's part of life, and it makes you think, and it makes you appreciate things, and I'm very happy that it turned out like this, and but it also is like you can never take things for granted, apparently.
No. The proper rebirth of the band. I'm in my 40s as well, so I hear what you say. You mentioned that you're good friends, and obviously you've been doing this for quite some time together now, but so with a band that is such obviously a very visual band, but also a band that really embraces storytelling, right? It can already be hard for bands that are friends to not have their friendship tested on musical direction and writing songs and the lyrics specifically, if multiple people are part of that. But with you guys, there's also another layer on top of that some bands do, is like, like we're going to talk about this particular story, or have you, like that kind of like setting that creative vision, if you will.
Yeah.
How intense can two very good friends argue about that?
It's miraculously, it goes very smooth. I mean, like there's always problems, and we have very different personalities. But the thing is here, like we both have been in different bands when we were teenagers, and I know how hard it can be to have 6 people making decisions on everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want this riff, I want that style, I want to do a show this weekend. I want to be with my girlfriend. I've seen it all, and he has seen it all too. And it was around that time that I came to the realization, like, I want a band where I can write basically everything. I want to be a composer, I want to be a songwriter, and I was very egoistic. I was like, I don't want to argue over a part here. I know I'm going to study this. I want to be a musician. This is what I want to do. And he and we both clicked very much. Like, we had this passion, this feeling for what we like these ghost stories, and he is like visual on stage, the singing, theatrics. I remember when I first saw him, I was 16. He played in another band. I saw him sing. I was like, I want that guy to be in my band. I was like, this is the best singer I've ever saw, and I mean that, like. And then at some point we got together via a mutual friend and another project. And so when we started working, it sort of naturally was this collaboration where he was like, he really liked what I make. Like, I make the songs from beginning to end. And then he comes in with guitar ideas, like melodies on top of that, and vocals. Sometimes he writes lyrics, sometimes me throughout the years. That changes. And he's happy with that, and I'm happy with that, and it's miraculous. It just flows. And I also, like, sometimes I tell him, like, yeah, there's too much lyrics here. I think we need to cut something out. Yeah, go ahead. There's no problem at all. And so there was just a flow there, and that's what we also want to protect that.
Yeah.
Like, we feel this is working now for more than 20 years. And so on that creative part, we don't really have it just flows. And so after Frankenstein, I was just like, it's the same stuff we do, and it's the same as in 2004 with the first demo. We did it exactly the same.
Yeah.
And we were just as excited and happy, but we didn't have an audience then, of course. Nothing changed. And I think that's the power or something. Yeah.
You look at yourself as a composer first and foremost. The storytelling is super important, and there was a conscious decision to explore the world of Lammendam. Again, what comes first then in those conversations that you guys have? Like, are you already like composing, you have material, and then you go like, you know what, this brings me back to that? Or is this like a conscious effort, like, hey, we want to go into that story, and with that in mind, I'm now going to compose?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's sort of like, again, like a natural process. I remember, like, already a couple of years ago, we started talking about Lammendam, and he actually found a couple of things online about an alternative version to Lammendam, like Kariba, the gifmengster, which is like the poison witch. And
not a very nice person, it seems like, in this EP.
No, not a random date, no.
Swipe left, all right. I don't know. I have never been on a dating app, but be careful.
No, but so we were talking about that, and we got excited, and we did like a photo shoot in 2021 there. Again, we went back to the place. There's an actual place you can visit, so it's very dear to us, especially to him who lives near there. And I also started like looking on the internet, and then we found that there was a poem from 1870 that someone wrote about Kariba, the witch. And I contacted like the archive in Heerlen, and they had a copy of it, and I could buy a copy, and they sent it. And it was amazing, and I think a lot of it was fiction, but what was amazing to us is that so many people throughout the years have been involved with this story, and through fiction and facts into it, and we found that it would go all the way back to the Dark Ages even, and we didn't know that before. We only knew like the version that we sort of handled in Lammendam. And so that alone was just exciting. Like, we would read, and then we found even that there had been a theater play in the 70s.
Okay.
And we found a picture in a newspaper of the theater group posing like in the forest. Were locals from Schinveld, and they had been playing out the Lammendam story. And that picture was like obviously black and white, and it looked pretty creepy unintentionally. I was And at the
Very
same
black
time, I was
metal.
reading, yeah. I was like, okay, this could already be creepy. And then at the same time, I was reading some short stories by Lovecraft. And then somehow I got this idea: what if there was a cult in the village wanting to resurrect, like the White Lady or Kariba in that sense? And we talked about that, and yeah, that got us excited. And then, in the same time, I was already writing some music, and then I think it's sort of cross influences. And then you start building it, and we always need something that inspires us, like, and it
Yeah,
can
yeah,
take
yeah,
some
yeah.
time. Hmm.
It's been now you say that that there was a theater production in the 70s. The last time I saw you play was here in Toronto, and you were opening for Children of Bottom
Oh,
in the Phoenix. That's a while ago, but boy, that was a hot and sweaty night. I remember just everybody just being so soaked in the mosh pit. So it's been a while that I had a chance to see you, and I know obviously that you always, within the realms of possibility, want to bring a production. But if there was no limitation on budget, which is always the issue, but like, is like a bucket list for the band to have like a theater like stage show with the music, with like actors and everything, and like go beyond what even a King Diamond does on stage? Is that like what the ultimate goal is for this band?
well, it sounds a bit boring, but we never really thought about that. Like we just do this, like we write and we get excited and we go out and play, and something like people sometimes say to us, like all the movements you do, all the choreography, but obviously, like we have never thought about it. It just
Right.
happened. Like, we start playing the new songs, and I do this twitch or something, and then Sergio comes, he lifts his foot, and we always laugh, like, oh, how did that happen? And then somehow it gets included, and then
Yeah, 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 yeah.
projection and things like that. And we really work like that. Like it sounds maybe a bit uninspired, but like naturally, like which comes to us. So and I think an important thing is like we really like the storytelling, but we also don't want it to be overwhelming in the sense that sometimes you see bands that make very long songs, very long albums because they really want to tell the story. And we
Right.
always feel like if someone's not interested in the story, they just should be able to pick one of the new songs and listen to them and just headbang and have a good time. So
Right.
that's always the challenge with us. Like, okay, we want to tell the story, but we don't want to make a song that's not groovy, or like it has to have both those aspects.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I want to dive into it and have this. Like there are people that really like they go into it and they email things, and I've never heard about them, and that's pretty cool. But there's also
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
that are not really into the lyrics, and that's great as well. Like that's fine.
Ik word wakker, ik ben verward, ik kom langzaam bij, dan realiseer ik mij. Dit is mijn lichaam niet.
Now you mentioned the lyrics. I mean, obviously, given that Dutch is also my mother tongue, we have to obviously talk about the fact that you guys are having Kom Uit Het Graf, which is a Dutch lyric, a full Dutch lyric song. You guys have used Dutch language before. Um, I'm sure that when you were playing like North America with songs like In Naam van de Duivel, that and you see people react really well to that song, that gives you confidence to do maybe a full song in Dutch. I always find it super interesting when bands do a song in their native tongue when it's not the norm, because some bands always play in their own native tongue, right? Especially in black metal. But with this one, like, also about what we talked before about, the personal health journey of the band. This is a special song, and okay, this song is not about about the band getting healthier necessarily. There's some nasty stuff that you guys talk about in these lyrics, but usually when a band decides, like, you know what, this song just works better if it's not in English, often it is because the way that you say the lyrics, or the way it sounds to you, or the poetry even of it, would not translate well. But then it's also a given that 99% of your audience won't understand what you're talking about. And sure, people can Google Translate and what have you, and depending on the band, depending on what you're talking about, again, there's some straightforward nasty shit that you're talking about on this song, but there's always a poetry with it, and certain nuances will get lost when you just translate or Google Translate into English. So what's your take on that? That, like, clearly a lot of additional love and attention goes into a song like that, but the paradox is that very few people actually get to fully appreciate that. Is that weird for you as an artist?
Well, I think I want to tell you a little bit about what happened with this song, because the song is also pretty strange compared to the others in the EP. And I remember, like, it was almost 2 years ago, like one night I woke up at 3 and I had this main melody in my head, like the heavy synth bass, like I was like, I'm tired, but I'm going to go down, I'm going to record this. And sometimes you have that, it doesn't happen a lot. And I basically wrote that song in 1 or 2 days. It was crazy, like it just came out. And then I sent it to Sergor, and he was like, this is amazing, it's very industrial, but it's amazing. And he said, like, I always had this idea from Ik Kom Uit Het Graf, I had this idea to make lyrics in Dutch. I think it will fit. And I was like, Ik Kom Uit Het Graf, the main tune is like, tun, 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 tun. It was like the same amount of words. I was like, this is meant to be. So he went on with it. And then he called me, he said, like, yeah, I've sung those lyrics, it came all out, it's super, super sick, and I think you're gonna shoot half of the lyrics because it's too extreme. He said, but it came all out. And he went and he sent it to me, and I was listening, I was completely shocked. Holy fuck. And before there were even more lyrics, there was a whole part in there that was actually more poetic about the protagonist visiting the devil and making this change, but it didn't really fit in the song, it was too much.
Right.
And he and we called about it, and he said, like, yeah, you're probably because usually I'm the guy telling, yeah, maybe this is too much, or maybe. But I told him, like, I was so shocked, but at the same time I felt like I think this is what it needs to be.
Right.
It was very strange. I was like, but I knew, like, yeah, I don't know what my family is going to think about it. I was already thinking about that.
I bet, yeah.
But it was like, this is so violent, and it's also so flat and dirty, and it was like, but it came from this idea that this
spiteful,
guy was, it was spiteful and like tacky, and like, but it came from this idea, like, let's say someone poisons you and you're buried for hundreds of years, because it's like it's a ghost story, it's coming back from the grave, all that intensity and hate. And I was thinking, okay, let's say you're going to cut a little bit and you're going to change it, and it would just collapse, and it didn't work. And but I remember after that he had the heart problem, he called me again, like, yeah, now I threw in a heart attack. Are you still sure about those lyrics? He was like that. I said, yeah, I'm sure, but in a weird sense that I think this is just what the song is, and we'll see what happens. But we knew that it was going to be controversial. But it also, what is funny, like, I was building the story linearly, like the cult.
Yeah.
There was a sacrifice. They want to bring back so bad this white lady, and then this guy comes in. This is like her attacker comes in, and also sound-wise, it's a very different song on the EP. So it started to make sense. Like, this is basically like the uninvited guest that comes in and drinks all the wine and makes a whole mess. So it fitted perfectly. And then the song after that, Venomous, is like where the witch herself comes and takes revenge on the whole village and takes everything in. So it sort of worked like that. And but it was a very strange thing. And we knew that a lot of people were going to hear the accent from Limburg, and they're going to think, like, oh my God, like, what is this guy singing? But we also knew, like, most people won't get it. And it's not their mother tongue, and it might actually be very interesting to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. It's my perception. That here in North America, the audiences seem to really gravitate towards those songs that stand out for those reasons. Like a lot of bands these days, have like that one song that is just different, and whether it's a Scandinavian band or a German band, there's a lot of German bands these days that will have like one song in German, and I find that, you know, we might not understand what you're saying as a collective. Yeah. I, in this case, do know what you're saying. But yeah, somehow it just makes it maybe just a little bit more exotic and maybe just a little easier for people to put their own meaning on it as well. I don't know. But I think that this is a song that people will expect you'll play when you come back here. So you better start, you know, rehearsing those lyrics and, you know, get ready for some controversial Dutch cursing, which will be fun. Whether it's in Limburg's dialect or not, that doesn't make a difference. Awesome. But we will want you to play that song. I have a feeling that it's going to be the standout song for sure that people will remember. Ardek, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you about this new EP coming out and the whole story and the whole process. I really appreciate your time. I know that you are eager to make up for lost time as a band, so I have a feeling we're going to see you all over in the next like 24 months, that you'll be heavily promoting this release. So I can't wait to see you again, whether that's here in Toronto, whether that's when we're both in Europe, but I have a feeling that'll happen sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I wish you guys all the best with this return to the living.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.